The anime begins with a class of students graduating from junior high school. While some were excited and others were just chatting about random things, the protagonist, Aijo Rentaro, took the opportunity to confess his feelings to the girl he liked. Rentaro asks her to be his girlfriend, and she says she likes him too because he's an energetic, kind, and sincere guy. However, everything turns cute and romantic until she reveals that, despite all that, she still feels disgusted at the thought of dating him. These words break Rentaro's heart, and later his friend tries to console him. However, shortly after, he asks how many times Rentaro has been rejected, curious to know the answer, as he won't be seeing Rentaro after that day since they're graduating and going to different schools. Rentaro then admits with a heavy heart that he has been rejected 100 times, leaving his friend amazed at his psychological strength to endure so many rejections. But this makes him wonder at what age Rentaro started to reach that number. Rentaro reveals that he will never forget the first time he confessed at just 8 months old. The guy really wanted to get a girlfriend. His friend then expresses confusion about why Rentaro was so often rejected, considering Rentaro is good-looking, excels in studies and sports. However, Rentaro finds it strange that his friend is giving him so many compliments, and they part ways, with the guy saying he hopes Rentaro doesn't die in high school even if his rejection count increases. Desperate, Rentaro goes to the god of love's shrine to plead for a girlfriend in high school, wishing to experience happiness as a student. Suddenly, he hears a voice and sees an old man appearing out of nowhere inside the offering box. He thinks it's a thief, but the old man explains that he is the god of that shrine. The god begins to explain that Rentaro can relax because he is destined to meet his girl during high school. He tells Rentaro about soulmates, destined to each other from birth, forming an ideal romantic pair. When they meet, they feel a shock through their bodies, an uncontrollable sensation called love at first sight. However, the god warns Rentaro to be cautious as only women feel it instantly, while for men, it develops over time. The god continues to explain that soulmates are destined to meet at a specific moment in their lives. Rentaro questions why some people remain single forever, and the god explains that not everyone has a predestined pair, only those fortunate enough. But then he reveals that Rentaro is exceptionally lucky, as during high school, he will encounter 100 girls predestined to him. For someone who was completely rejected, Rentaro now has plenty of options, finding it hard to believe. He even asks if he could burn down the shrine. It's a lie. A month later, Rentaro enrolls in a school called Ohana no Mitsu. After the admission ceremony, he goes to his class when suddenly he bumps into two girls at the same time, Inda Karain and Hanazono Hakari. As they lock eyes, both girls feel a wave coursing through their bodies, experiencing the love at first sight the god spoke of. Rentaro realizes what just happened, and the three of them stare at each other, not knowing what to do. After a while, Rentaro decides to act normal and offers help for them to get up. However, Hakari quickly pretends to have twisted her ankle and asks for his assistance to go to the infirmary. This makes Rentaro burst into tears, feeling like a horrible human being for hurting his soulmate as soon as he found her. However, Karain understands what her friend was plotting and desperately tries to act before Hakari steals the boy's attention. So she quickly pretends to have twisted her ankle too, despite trying to act tough. This leaves Rentaro even more distraught, feeling like a walking threat that hurts everyone he encounters. He punches himself multiple times, making the two girls concerned, but they immediately remember to keep pretending their ankles are hurt. And so, Rentaro helps the girls to the infirmary, struggling to support both of them. They take advantage of the situation, pretending to be unsteady to get closer to him. This drives Rentaro crazy, feeling like the luckiest person in the universe. While walking to the infirmary, they finally introduce themselves, discovering that all three are in the same class. Randomly, two girls pass by talking about a famous love charm in the school. The charm suggests that confessing to the person you like by giving them a pink four-leaf clover from the school field guarantees a relationship. Hakari and Karain overhear the conversation and immediately run off in search of the four-leaf clover, completely forgetting about their supposedly injured feet. Later, 4 hours after the end of that day's classes, Rentaro finally becomes free to leave after spending those hours helping a teacher find his contact lenses. He thinks that since it took so long, the girls must have already gone home. However, as he passes by a window, he is startled to see the two of them working hard to find a four-leaf clover. He's impressed that they spent 4 hours looking for a clover, which doesn't make much sense to him since he also spent that time searching for something. But seeing their effort to give him a clover, Rentaro decides he can't just stand there. So shortly after, he appears in the field and Karain quickly tries to act as if she wasn't looking for the four-leaf clover. Rentaro asks where Hakari is, and she looks around realizing she's alone, assuming her friend must have gone to the bathroom. Then Rentaro offers a drink to her, but she accepts it, struggling to convey gratitude. But as much as Karain tries to act tough and pretend not to care, it's clear that she's in love, making both of them nervous, and she quickly leaves. As soon as she leaves, Hakari appears and Rentaro offers a drink to her too. However, before accepting, she thinks it's a good opportunity to try an indirect kiss and pretends that a whole can is too much for her, saying she can only manage to drink half. She thinks it's a perfect plan, but Rentaro is a cautious guy and had bought a smaller can in case the larger one was too much. She then resorts to mathematics, calculating that the smaller can still has 15 mol more than half of the larger bottle. Rentaro thinks that 15 mol is nothing, but as Hakari insists, he agrees to drink a bit, struggling to figure out how much he should drink to get the right amount. However, as soon as Rentaro hands her the can to drink, he realizes that an indirect kiss is about to happen and freaks out, making Hakari startled and drop the can on the ground. She's devastated, and Rentaro is surprised at how much she liked that juice, not understanding the real reason for her sadness. Next, he offers a tissue to wipe her skirt because the juice had splashed on it. But this makes the girl unable to keep her feelings secret any longer. So she asks him out, apologizing for doing something so sudden, explaining that it felt like love at first sight. She says she knew she wasn't the only one who felt that way about him and didn't want to risk regretting not opening up. This catches Rentaro off guard, and he cries with happiness because for the first time in his life, a girl is confessing to him. But before he can say anything, Karain returns, becoming desperate at the scene. She knocks over a bunch of cans, explaining that she bought them because she didn't know what flavor Rentaro liked. Then she makes it clear that she's mad at her friend for confessing to him. Hakari tries to pretend she didn't know that Karain also liked him, but Karain says she heard her saying she knew she wasn't the only one with feelings for the guy. Only after saying all this, Karain realizes that she unintentionally confessed her feelings too. Then she overcomes her difficulty in opening up to make a better confession, asking Rentaro out. Now the guy who has received 100 rejections in his life has two beautiful girls waiting for an answer to know which one he will date. So nervous that he can't give an immediate response, they agree to wait until the next day. However, he's torn because both girls seem amazing. Unable to come to a decision, Rentaro returns to the shrine to talk to the god of love. However, the god doesn't help much, explaining that as both are his soulmates, choosing either one would be an ideal option, with no wrong decision. Rentaro then asks how other people manage to decide in such a situation, but the god reveals that usually each person has only one soulmate, confessing that there was an accident on the day Rentaro was born. However, what happened was that the god liked TV a lot and got distracted at work, mistakenly marking 100 soulmates for Rentaro because he gave the program he was watching at that time a perfect score. Rentaro finds it extremely irresponsible of the god because instead of being happy to find his soulmate, he was tormented by the dilemma of which one to choose. To make matters worse, the god explains that people who have a soulmate but don't end up with them for some reason can't bear it and lose their lives. In other words, the girl Rentaro doesn't choose will die. This only makes the decision even more difficult. So not to harm either of the two, he devises a plan to pretend to reject both requests, then talk to them separately, accepting the relationship and making up that they have to keep it a secret to not hurt the other so he could save both. The next day, Rentaro shows up at school all dirty, and the girls seem anxious to know the decision he made. However, Rentaro surprises them by asking both of them to be his girlfriends. The previous night, just after devising his plan to secretly date both girls, Rentaro realized how wrong it was. The two of them had made an effort to confess, and he understood how difficult that was. So he decided to be honest with them. He explains that he likes both of them very much and couldn't choose, but promises to make them happy. Karain finds it absurd and starts saying that she won't accept such a thing. However, Rentaro then hands a pink 4-leaf clover to each of them. He had called the teacher, he helped find his contact lenses, and asked to enter the school during the night, spending the entire night searching until he found 2 clovers. He explains that he thought they would like more romantic proposals and would be happy to receive the clover, as they spent hours looking for them the day before. But Karain continues to deny accepting the situation. Hakari then accepts his proposal because she loves him so much that, compared to a rejection, the fact that he dates another girl seemed like just a silly detail. Seeing her friend hugging the guy she loves, Karain also ends up accepting his proposal. Rentaro then promises to make both of them happy, relieved that he managed to save them. But he couldn't forget that there were still 98 more soulmates for him in the world, and he would have to choose between letting them die or loving all 100. On the next day, Rentaro celebrates the fact that after a sequence of 100 rejections, he finally got a girlfriend for the first time in his life. He was so happy that he began talking about it with the street lamps, saying that he not only had 1 but 2 girlfriends, and they were going to school together, just as he had always dreamed. At that moment, the 2 girls arrive and see Rentaro talking to the lamppost. He explains that he is so happy to be dating both of them, and Karain starts to say that if he wanted to talk, he could talk to her. However, the girl becomes so nervous that she can't finish the sentence. Then Hakari is the first to take action, holding Rentaro's hand. The guy gets nervous about holding a girl's hand, and Karain gets a bit jealous of the whole situation. So Rentaro decides to hold her hand too, making the girl blush. And so the three of them walk to school hand in hand, with Rentaro feeling like the happiest guy in the world, while the two girls think about how much they love him. To avoid awkward silence, they start repeating non-stop how good the weather is. An old lady overhears their conversation and thinks about how young people these days care about the weather. Not wanting to only talk about the weather, Rentaro strikes up a conversation with Hakari, calling her by her last name, but the girl asks him to call her by her first name. He then calls her Hakari, and she also calls him Rentaro. This makes Karain also want that level of intimacy with the guy, but as always, she's quite shy. When she finally gathers the courage, she ends up shouting Rentaro's name, and even steam comes out of her head. He then calls her Karain for the first time and then calls Hakari, making the girl very happy. And so they continue walking to school, endlessly repeating their first names while releasing little hearts around them, making other students think it's some kind of roll call. Suddenly, they see a student running desperately being chased by a crazy woman. The two recognize her as the vice principal, who is extremely strict about school rules. If she catches any student running in the hallways, she chases them wherever they go until she catches them to apply her punishment: a kiss, which undoubtedly gives students both psychic and physical trauma. The two explain that no one has ever escaped this punishment, and that's why they call her Sonic Witch, as the woman is a real monster. This makes Hakari wonder if Rentaro has ever kissed a girl, but he explains that the two of them are his first girlfriends, and he has never kissed anyone before. This intensifies their rivalry because both girls want to give Rentaro his first kiss. During lunchtime, the three sit down to eat together on the rooftop, and Karain notices a kitten sleeping peacefully nearby. While Karain watches the animal, Hakari takes the initiative again, offering Rentaro a taste of her rolled omelette. She feeds him and asks what he thinks. Rentaro replies that it's the best food in the galaxy. Then Karain, not wanting to be left behind, says that she made some cookies. She goes to feed him just like Hakari did, but she is so nervous that she closes her eyes and accidentally hits the guy's eye with the cookie. After Rentaro eats the cookie, he comments that it's also the best in the galaxy, making the girls wonder how many galaxies exist in his head. Next, Hakari has an idea and offers a baki to Rentaro. She asks him to open his mouth, but when he realizes Hakari is also holding the other end with her mouth, he notices how beautiful his girlfriend is while she starts eating the baki and getting closer to giving him a kiss, making Karain desperate. In a hurry, she grabs a baki to join in, but ends up hitting the guy's other eye. Her hair still makes him sneeze, causing him to break the baki that Hakari had. Rentaro ends up with both eyes red, and Karain invents that he might be catching a cold and should kiss her to pass on the cold. Rentaro gets nervous seeing Karain's face so close, but seconds before they kiss, Hakari prevents the situation from continuing by pushing the girl away. She says that they can't be sure if he's really sick, and to find out, they should measure the temperature with their foreheads and lips. However, Karain interrupts them, saying that the best thing to do is mouth-to-mouth breathing. The situation starts to get out of control, with the two girls becoming more determined to outdo each other. Rentaro realizes that something is happening and asks if the reason for the fight is because both of them want to kiss him. Rentaro says they could have just asked, as he also wanted the same. However, the two girls ask which one of them will be the first to kiss him. Karain questions Hakari for trying to kiss Rentaro before they even made a decision, but the girl responds that she did the same. Rentaro understands what the problem is and says they don't need to fight because he has devised a perfect plan to resolve the situation. The two ask how that was possible since he just started dating them the day before. However, Rentaro explains that he was so excited that he couldn't sleep at night thinking about their future, spending the night imagining different scenarios and situations to make both of them happy. This makes them think about how much they love him. Rentaro continues by saying that regarding the first kiss, they could resolve it without knowing who got the first place. In this way, both of them would have an equal chance of having given the first kiss, and he would have the feeling that it was both of them. However, they question how that would work because if they did it in different places, even if they didn't know, he would know who was the first. He then continues to explain his plan. The three would be blindfolded and the two girls would stand at a specific point while playing a song at maximum volume on repeat, ironically named The First Kiss. This way, no one would hear footsteps or sounds. They would have to roll dice to decide the position where they would stand, and when they were ready, they would send him a message. Then Rentaro would roll a die to decide whether to start from the left or the right and put on his mask to go to them without knowing who he was going to kiss first. He would kiss both of them in a time when there was no way for them to guess who he kissed first. After that, he would return to the starting point and make them change positions again so that none of the three could figure out their positions, leaving only the happy memory of their first kiss. Hikari finds that plan brilliant, but Karain thinks there are many ways to cheat. Rentaro says he has a solution to fix this flaw, but his idea is for the three of them to swear with their pinkies, not to cheat. Despite being a childish idea with no guarantee that they would keep their promise, for Rentaro, it was impossible for someone to break a pinky swear. He acts so innocently that the two decide to really keep the promise. And so they begin the plan, but at that moment, Rentaro realizes that with everyone blindfolded, there is a great chance of them hitting each other's heads, resulting in a disastrous first kiss. To avoid such a scenario, he decides to reach out with his hand first to locate himself. However, despite his intention to touch the shoulder, he ends up grabbing another part of the body, immediately identifying that he went to Hikari first. With the plan going wrong, he removes Karain's blindfold, telling them they should start again. She is unaware of what happened, but agrees to start over. However, as Rentaro is almost reaching the two girls again, the kitten that was sleeping wakes up and decides to go to Karain. As the kitten touches a place it shouldn't, she thinks it's Rentaro and kicks it. Only after attacking the poor thing does she realize it was the kitten that bothered her. So Rentaro tells Hikari that they will have to start again, and the girl is super confused about what happened. And thus, they try over and over again, but each attempt goes worse than the previous one, with one of the attempts almost making Rentaro fall off the rooftop. They realize that the plan is much more complicated than it should be, and Karain comments that she already imagined it wouldn't work. However, Hikari defends Rentaro's plan and accuses her of being the reason it didn't work, because every time Rentaro went to her, he ended up injured. The two start to fight, and Hikari asks her to stop hurting her boyfriend. This only makes the fight worse, with them competing for Rentaro even more. Seeing the two fighting so much for him, Rentaro feels guilty, thinking that all that trouble was because he was an inexperienced boyfriend who had never kissed before. So he runs through the hallways calling the vice principal. Immediately, the woman appears and starts chasing Rentaro, determined to give him his punishment. She attacks him monstrously, but before she could do anything, Karain holds the woman with all her strength, while Hikari takes the opportunity to scream as if she had seen the inspector of the Ministry of Education. Afraid of losing her job, the vice principal leaves Rentaro alone, finding another victim. The two then ask why Rentaro did that, and he explains that he wants his two girlfriends to get along, and if the reason for the fight was his first kiss, he preferred to throw the kiss in the trash. This makes the two girls say at the same time that instead of wasting his first kiss like that, with someone he doesn't even like, they prefer to accept him giving the first kiss to the other girlfriend. Although they are rivals, the two know that they truly love him. This makes Rentaro so happy that he hugs both of them, leaving them in love. He then takes them to the rooftop again and explains his initial plan to solve that problem, which was much simpler than what they tried. The three could give a kiss at the same time, but Rentaro had discarded that idea because it would make the two girls kiss each other. They get nervous and deny the idea, but after thinking for a while, they accept it. The three hold hands and give a kiss at the same time, but Rentaro thinks it looks much more like some kind of ET summoning ritual. Regardless of whether they summoned a space creature or not, the two successfully shared Rentaro's first kiss. The next day, they go to the school library to look for a recipe book to learn to cook more things for Rentaro, although Karain doesn't admit it's for him, unlike Hikari, who was already clear that she wants to cook different dishes for her beloved. So Karain finds a book called Recipes to Capture Your Boyfriend's Heart. Hikari decides to take a look at it too, since the title is exactly what both of them were looking for, but Karain didn't want to share the content with her, starting a fight of the book. Rentaro says there's no reason for them to fight after all, they had already kissed each other. This makes them extremely embarrassed. He then explains that he was just joking and decides to go look for a book for himself. However, when he finds one that catches his attention, Rentaro ends up seeing another girl who was interested in the same book. As soon as they look at each other, they feel an electric shock. And so, Rentaro meets his third soulmate. Rentaro is surprised because he didn't expect to encounter another soulmate at that moment. The girl becomes a bit embarrassed and starts to move away, but he tells her she could take the book first. So the girl points to a page in a book she's holding, and Rentaro understands that she wants him to read the part she's pointing at. It's written that the character is the ruler of the land. Realizing that the girl is referring to herself, Rentaro understands that she works in the library. As the girl continues to communicate through books, he thinks she's doing it because talking in the library is prohibited. So when the girl asks what he's looking for, Rentaro responds with gestures. The girl doesn't understand and asks why he doesn't open his mouth, but this prompts Rentaro to say that he should be asking her that. Feeling bad, the girl starts pointing to various sentences in the book to apologize and explain that she has difficulty speaking, which is why she'll call someone else to assist him. She begins to leave, but Rentaro follows and apologizes, asking her to help him find a romance book. Rentaro explains that he's looking for a recommendation for a story where characters overcome difficulties to live happily ever after. The girl listens attentively and is excited to help. Immediately, she starts looking for books like the ones Rentaro was searching for. He is amazed to see how committed she is to helping, but is astonished by the stacks of books she has separated for him in the end. Realizing what she did, the girl immediately points to her book, apologizing and telling him to choose the one he likes. However, to her surprise, Rentaro says he'll take them all since they were her recommendations. But then, Rentaro discovers that it takes a week to get his library card, so he can't borrow any books for now. Seeing how much Rentaro wants to take a romance book, the girl offers to lend him the book she was using to communicate since it's not part of the library. Rentaro finally asks for her name, and the girl introduces herself, showing her library card. With that, Rentaro learns her name is Yoshimoto Shizuka, and they are in the same class. He apologizes for not recognizing her, explaining that he hasn't memorized all the faces in the class, and then introduces himself. Later, Rentaro returns to the table where his two girlfriends, Karain and Hikari, are still searching for the recipe book that would please him, making Rentaro feel blessed to have them in his life. At night at home, Rentaro reads Shizuka's book. In it, a princess falls in love with one of her knights, and he vows to protect her no matter the cost. However, being a princess, her destiny is already decided and she has to marry a royal ally, making their romance a forbidden love. But even knowing all of this, the knight questions if there's a way for them to defy destiny. The book ends and Rentaro is moved, rooting for the happiness of the couple and eager to know how the story will continue since it's only the first volume. But the knight's final question makes Rentaro remember that the destiny of soulmates is to be together or have their lives ruined. The next day, Shizuka brings the second volume of her book to class. She is distracted, looking at it when suddenly Rentaro appears, excitedly saying he loved the book and read it all in one night. Shizuka gets nervous seeing him again, and Rentaro notices she has the continuation of the book. Blushing with embarrassment, Shizuka offers the second volume to Rentaro, and he thanks her, expressing his anticipation to see how the story continues. Next, Rentaro thinks he needs to repay Shizuka somehow. He leaves the classroom, leaving his two girlfriends still arguing and competing over recipes they find. Rentaro buys a drink for Shizuka as a thank you for lending him the books. As they drink, he asks Shizuka if she reads a lot, and she nods. Rentaro enthusiastically explains that it makes sense, given she knows such an incredible romance work like the book he's reading. He shares that he has read many romances before, but none were as exciting as this one. Rentaro starts recounting what he thought of the book and his reaction to the end of the first part of the story. Shizuka then takes the book to say that it's also her favorite work. She mentions having had the book for a long time and having read it multiple times. Rentaro finds it amazing because she uses it to communicate, swiftly finding the right page and sentence, showing she knows the book like the back of her hand. Rentaro finds it incredible because he has never read the same book several times like her. However, Shizuka says it became natural for her since, being the way she is, she doesn't have a single friend to talk to, and that book is the only world that brings comfort to her. Then Shizuka thanks Rentaro for not avoiding her because of the way she is. Rentaro responds that he would never do that. Rentaro looks at Shizuka for a while and then asks to borrow the first volume of the book again, promising not to take long to return it. Even without fully understanding his reasons, she lends him the book once more. Later, at his job, Shizuka organizes library books when the librarian notices she's quite cheerful and asks if something different happened. The girl blushes and denies, saying everything is normal and nothing happened. Shizuka continues her work, and when she reaches the shelf where she met Rentaro, she remembers the encounter and tries to reach for the book that made them meet. However, she's a bit short to grab it. The next day, Shizuka brings another volume of the book she's lending to Rentaro to class, but she doesn't find him, and the same happens the next day. 3 days later, not meeting Rentaro, she finally sees him talking to Karain and Hikari. The two comment that he's been very sleepy lately, and Rentaro says he's been staying up late. This worries the two girls, but when he asks if something is wrong, they deny. Being quite sleepy, Hikari gives him a kiss on the cheek. She says she wanted to share her joy with him, and Rentaro becomes happy, reciprocating with another kiss, making Karain jealous. Karain says she also has a lot of joy to share and starts to approach to give Rentaro a kiss. However, as always, she gets so nervous that she ends up hurting him, giving him a strong headbutt. Shizuka hears everything from afar and feels sad realizing Rentaro already has a girlfriend. Since forever, she felt like the character in her book, as if her destiny were traced, just like the princess. Shizuka thought that, due to her way of speaking, she was destined for loneliness, something she had already accepted until she met Rentaro and fell in love. She had endured bullying because her way of communicating annoyed some of her classmates. People tried to force her to speak normally, shouting and calling her weird. Upon discovering that Rentaro had a girlfriend, Shizuka feels like she was wrong to think that someone could have time to talk to a freak like her. After that, Shizuka goes to the library and becomes pensive until after a while Rentaro appears, saying he wanted to repay her better for lending him the books. He asks if she has a smartphone, and she nods. Then Rentaro asks her to download an app on her phone explaining that he has checked its security. Not understanding anything, Shizuka does as he asks. Next, Rentaro asks her to import a file he sent. When Shizuka does what he asked, she realizes she has the PDF of the first volume of her book. However, Shizuka doesn't understand how it's possible since she was sure it hadn't been released as an ebook yet. Clicking on a part of the book, she discovers that the app is a text-to-speech conversion software. Rentaro explains that the program will read any inserted text using a synthesized voice, allowing her to communicate better. Then Shizuka realizes that the reason Rentaro has been so sleepy in the past few days is that he manually typed the entire book into the app. He explains that he noticed Shizuka couldn't talk face-to-face since she had to search for book pages during conversations, and both she and the person she was talking to had to read the book. However, through the text-to-speech app, she could converse while looking into the eyes of the person. Rentaro says he can't even imagine how difficult it is for Shizuka to speak aloud, and that's why he knows he can't force anything, making the girl realize the difference between Rentaro and other people who insisted on making her speak normally. He continues explaining that he wants to make her way of communicating with others at least a little easier. Then he asks Shizuka to try the app and say something to him. Taking advantage of the moment, Shizuka confesses her feelings, saying she loves Rentaro. Shizuka starts to cry and asks him not to pay too much attention because she didn't expect a response but only wanted to reveal her feelings, knowing he was committed. However, Rentaro realizes he feels the same way about her not because Shizuka is his soulmate or because he has to save her life from the destiny that would happen if they were separated, but simply because he really likes her. Rentaro then tells Shizuka to reciprocate her feelings. She responds by clicking on a part of the book that said they were destined never to be together, feeling once again like the princess in the story. But like the knight, Rentaro replies that if destiny is in the way, they just need to break it to be together. So they hug, and then Rentaro takes Shizuka to his two girlfriends. He explains the whole situation and asks for their permission to make Shizuka his new girlfriend. The poor girl is terrified of their reaction, and Karain really freaks out about it. She argues with Rentaro, finding the request absurd, but unlike her, her friend reacts in the opposite way. Hikari is touched that Rentaro doesn't want to leave them even after finding a new love. Karain asks what was happening for everyone to act as if it were normal, but Rentaro assures that he didn't transfer any feelings he had for the two to Shizuka, as the girl had a completely new space in his heart, just as they also had their own space. Rentaro promises to love both of them as he always has, but decides to go further and promises to prove with his actions that he will love them even more than before. He asks the three of them to let him know if they feel he's not fulfilling what he promised, as if that happened, he would redeem himself because anyone who hurts someone they love is trash and has no right to live. This makes Karain realize that Rentaro was indeed serious and Hikari feels she has the best boyfriend in the world. And so, Rentaro ends up with 3 girlfriends, turning the love triangle into a rectangle. However, he still had 97 soulmates to find. Rentaro officially introduces his new girlfriend, Shizuka, to the other 2, Hikari and Karain. As they are all in the same class, he assumes they must have already seen each other. The girls are curious about the new girlfriend, and at first glance, they find her ordinary. However, when Shizuka uses her phone to communicate, both are startled. So, Rentaro explains that Shizuka uses quotes from her favorite book series to converse, adding that she included the names of their classmates in Volume 2. Moreover, Rentaro, looking directly at the audience, explains that anyone wanting more details should watch the 3rd episode. Karain asks him not to break the 4th wall every time an explanation is needed. Rentaro continues the presentation of Shizuka, mentioning that she is a book-loving librarian who makes cute toe movements while reading. He explains that her feet move differently based on the emotions she experiences while reading, changing when she's happy, scared, and so on, just like a dog wagging its tail. Rentaro finds it adorable that Shizuka can't hide her feelings. However, the librarian is embarrassed as she hadn't realized she had this habit. Speaking of cute things, he also comments on Hikari's habit of putting her hand on her mouth while thinking and, when concentrated, starting to suck her thumb. The girl can't believe she does something so indecent. Rentaro doesn't forget Karain and tells everyone how she becomes both shy and happy whenever she receives a compliment. Whenever this happens, Karain twirls her hair around her finger. contrasting with her tough demeanor, making her cute as well. After hearing all of this, the three girlfriends are all embarrassed and nervous about Rentaro paying too much attention to them. He also talks about the kiss they shared, mentioning Hikari pouting and Karain even stopping breathing. Shizuka, upon hearing this, gets a bit nervous and stumbles over her words but understands that their lips had already touched. Hikari asks if she would be interested in kissing him too, but Shizuka, in a very timid manner, says that God has assigned her the destiny of preserving her chastity until the day of her marriage. She apologizes, but Rentaro says it's okay, and she can take her time. Besides, he only wants to kiss her when she's ready. Meanwhile, the other two girlfriends watch, thinking they would like to kiss him at that moment. During lunch, Hikari and Karain share their lunch with Rentaro, each in their own way. Hikari does it gently, and Karain does it in a bossy manner. The two start fighting while stuffing food into the boyfriend's mouth. Just watching, Shizuka becomes a little scared and eats her lunch alone. After lunch, Hikari and Karain are still at war for Rentaro's attention, and Rentaro notices that Shizuka is keeping to herself. He believes it's challenging to make friends with the others right away, so he came prepared. People tend to act forced when trying to get to know someone, afraid of disapproval. Therefore, the easiest way to open one's heart is to show how you feel. Thus, Rentaro brought a deck of cards for them to play a few rounds of the Miko game. He says it wouldn't be fun just to play, so if he suggests a penalty, the winner gets the right to tickle the loser. He names it Operation Let's Tickle and Laugh to become friends. When they hear this, the girlfriends are determined to win because they really want Rentaro to tickle them. So the game begins. Rentaro wins the first round and Karain is the loser. She pretends to be sad about losing but can't hide the smile on her face. Rentaro starts the tickling session, but Karain holds back her laughter, saying she didn't feel a thing. He questions the point of pretending to be tough and continues with the tickling, trying all parts of her body, but she remains steadfast without laughing. This way, Rentaro realizes that it seemed like he was doing something indecent and feels embarrassed. In the second round, Rentaro is again the winner and Hikari is the loser. Unlike the previous one, she doesn't try to hide her happiness and jumps for joy. Hikari says she's ready, then opens her blouse and her melons bounce forward. Karain gets mad and covers them again, asking who told her to undress and declaring that it was forbidden to take off clothes. Rentaro starts tickling Hikari, and she laughs heartily, feeling his hands and fingers all over her body. Suddenly, she feels something and pushes Rentaro away from him to stop immediately. She says she's weak and couldn't handle it, but in reality, she was almost bursting with happiness. In the third round, Rentaro is the winner, no surprises, and this time, Shizuka is the loser. He feels like the universe wants him to tickle all of them and gets excited about Shizuka's turn because he wants to hear her laugh. He starts tickling her, but she laughs using her phone. He is surprised to discover that she also laughs through the phone, and she replies that it might be sad. But that's her way. Nevertheless, Rentaro still finds her adorable while laughing and decides to continue. Shizuka laughs without making a sound but squirms on her back. Karain says it should be the most pleasant laughter to the neighbors in history. Then Karain and Hikari remember that Rentaro hasn't lost yet. Therefore, his next mission should be to tickle him. So the two enter a dispute to see who will touch the boyfriend's body first. The fourth round ends, and this time Rentaro is the loser, and to the sadness of the other two, Shizuka is the winner. The boyfriend gets into position and calls Shizuka, saying she can come. Hikari and Karain are lying on the ground, dying of jealousy, but can't do anything. Shizuka approaches very shyly and with trembling hands just pokes Rentaro. However, that causes more tickling than he imagined, and he can't stop laughing. Hikari doesn't understand because that was the perfect opportunity to touch her boyfriend's body as much as she wanted. Even if her hand went through some parts, she wouldn't be reproached. But Shizuka is just poking. Then she worries that Rentaro might be attracted to Shizuka's reserved and timid manner. Hikari always used her cuteness as a calculated move, often being called a fake cutie. On the other hand, Shizuka was so shy, sincere, and fragile that anyone would want to protect her. That's why she recognizes that Shizuka is a strong rival. Rentaro laughs too much and needs to go to the bathroom. When he comes out, the three are alone. Karain faces Shizuka and asks what her deal is if she was acting that way to make her jealous. Shizuka says it's not true, but Karain argues that she was the only one not trying to get close to Rentaro. She was poking while knowing she would like to touch his body. Karain questions why the girl was holding back so much. Hikari says maybe she was scared because Karain was always shouting. But then Shizuka says that the two were already Rentaro's girlfriends before her, so she who arrived later shouldn't interfere. Karain insists that she was already an official girlfriend, just like the two of them, so she didn't need to hesitate. She gets irritated seeing the librarian all withdrawn without saying what she really desires. Hikari provokes Karain, saying it's funny coming from someone who also hides her feelings. So Shizuka decides to be honest and tell the truth. Deep down, she could hardly bear the fear of the other two. Hikari behaves elegantly and gracefully, has a lot of femininity, and a very beautiful body. Karain is a beautiful girl with a face of desirable characteristics, besides having a confidence that matched everything. Next to the two, Rentaro would normally compare them, and that's what Shizuka feared the most. The other two girls melt after hearing something so cute. Shizuka says she's common and boring, has a child's body, and a sad and reserved personality. Walking alongside them, the difference would be glaring. Karain admits that Shizuka is quite pretty, has a small and quiet demeanor, which she finds cute and very feminine. Feeling bad, she apologizes for getting irritated. Hikari says that Shizuka doesn't need to worry because Karain is always angry. Moreover, Rentaro loves them more than they can imagine, and he knows that he must find positive points in her. Then Karain insists that she shouldn't be repressed because of them, and if she has something to say or wants Rentaro to do something, she shouldn't hesitate. Moreover, they ask her to use their first names because she doesn't need to address them by their middle names. After all, they are all his girlfriends. Meanwhile, Rentaro observes everything through the door window. He is surprised because he didn't think everything would go so well. When Shizuka was tickling him, he noticed that Karain was staring at the girl, and that would cause trouble, so he needed to do something quickly. Rentaro believes that if they end up making all of them hide their feelings every time he gets worried, anxious, or afraid, the distance between them won't decrease. Therefore, he needed to take the first step. Thus, as he had thought, Karain wasn't really angry. She just wanted the best for Shizuka, and Hikari intervened so that the anger wouldn't be directed at the new girl. Seeing this, Shizuka gathered courage to tell the truth. In the end, he is moved and cries to see the girls' unity. Rentaro comes back from his bathroom break, and Karain says they need to go back to the punishment of the game because those pokes don't count as tickles. Thus, Shizuka will tickle for real this time, and Hikari is excited and encourages the girl. Seeing how much the others are helping, Shizuka needs to respond in kind to that kindness. So she gathers courage and says she wants to kiss Rentaro. Everyone is surprised, and the girl reveals that what she said before about God assigning her the destiny to preserve her chastity until marriage was a lie. Deep down, she would really like a kiss from her boyfriend. Rentaro feels flattered and very happy. The girl then pouts, waiting for the kiss, but Rentaro just strokes her hair. He apologizes and says it was automatic because she was too cute. She grabs his hand and brings it to her face. Then finally, Rentaro kisses her with care and tenderness, and Shizuka immediately turns all red with embarrassment, with stars blinking over her head. The girl is frozen, and Rentaro starts poking her to see if everything is okay. Hikari tells Karain that now that she made Shizuka be so honest with her feelings, it was time for her to be honest too. She says she has nothing to declare. Therefore, since she won't, Hikari goes to Rentaro and says she would also like a kiss. She asks if it's still enough and if she hasn't lost her appeal to Shizuka. He replies that no, because all of them are the cutest girls in the world. So Rentaro puts his arms around Hikari's shoulders and kisses her. He calls Karain, but she still maintains the tough posture and doesn't admit her feelings. In fact, she says that if he wants to kiss her so much, she can do it for him, even without much interest. However, not being able to hide it, she promptly gets into the kissing position. Rentaro then hugs Karain and calls her cute. She gets embarrassed, becoming even cuter. She gets nervous and calls him a fool while punching his chest. Despite this, Rentaro still says he wants to kiss her, and the girl finally admits that she wants it too. After that, they kiss. The three girlfriends are completely hypnotized by love, and Rentaro thinks they are great girlfriends and is very grateful for all of them, thinking about how he can be so happy. They say that this is his line, and all four laugh together. A few days later, Shizuka, Hikari, and Karain went to check the results of the grades that the school had made available for all students, while Rentaro went to the classroom to retrieve his cell phone that he had left behind, a device important to him because it contained memories of his girlfriends. Upon reaching the classroom, Rentaro found his cell phone but noticed that a classmate was still studying. He approached the girl to ask why she wasn't with the others to see the test results. The girl named Ie Nano replied that going there would be a waste of time as she already knew her score would be the highest. As Ie made eye contact with Rentaro, both felt a wave coursing through their bodies. The girl was one of his 100 soulmates. Rentaro understood what had just happened. After all, he had experienced it 3 times before. However, unlike the other girls, Ai simply ignored what she felt and continued studying as if nothing had happened. Rentaro then asked if she didn't want to see the results with him, but the girl insisted that it would be a waste of time, not stopping her studies even to respond to him. Later, Rentaro checked the grade results with his 3 girlfriends, and despite their different rankings in the tests, he congratulated all 3 for their results. Rentaro then noticed that indeed, Ai was in first place, just as she had said. requiring her to have aced all subjects in school. He asked the three girls if any of them knew Aijo, and all explained that they had never spoken to her, and all they knew was that Aijo was very focused on her studies. Karain mentioned hearing rumors that Aijo could answer any question, regardless of the subject, earning her a reputation as a highly advanced AI. Later, during class, the teacher asked all students to study onion cells through a microscope and sketch the results. Ironically, Rentaro teamed up with Aijo, while Shizuka, Hakari, and Karain worked on the exercise as a trio. With only one microscope per table, Rentaro fetched his and Aijo's, while unlike his three extremely cute girlfriends, Aijo had a more elegant and beautiful demeanor. When Rentaro returned to the table, he was startled to see that the girl was merely copying the cells drawn in the textbook instead of using the microscope as she should. Aijo explained that it was more efficient that way, finding the task pointless since scientists had already provided all necessary answers. As the teacher approached, Rentaro asked them to use the microscope properly, and Aijo agreed. However, when Rentaro realized she was still using the microscope to continue copying the drawing from the textbook, making Rentaro understand why everyone called Aijo an AI. She had a cold and rational mindset like artificial intelligence. He then took their onion and started to cut a piece, accidentally injuring his finger. Rentaro washed the wound but thought it best to go to the infirmary. Aijo observed him washing his hands and suddenly put his finger in her mouth, explaining that saliva was the most efficient way to treat the cut, containing antimicrobial agents. She justified it by saying it was a small cut, so antiseptic wasn't necessary. The situation left Rentaro all red, and he began to notice the girl, realizing how long her eyelashes were and how smooth her skin was. Meanwhile, his three girlfriends continued the exercise without noticing what Rentaro was doing. After class, he put a band-aid on his finger, and while all students left, he rushed to thank Aijo for her help. Rentaro offered to repay her by buying a soda, a trick he used with all of his other soulmates. However, unlike them, Aijo refused the offer, stating that soda was not the best drink for hydration, as even her diet had to be efficient. Rentaro then expressed his desire to get to know Aijo better, but the girls saw no point in it. She didn't like wasting time on hobbies, vacations, or any other fun activities, as they wouldn't help improve her academic grades or performance. Rentaro tried to explain that grades aren't everything in life and that having fun has its value. However, for Aijo, all of that was just a waste of time. She left, and Rentaro wondered if that girl was indeed his soulmate. At home, Aijo studied as usual, but unlike other times, she couldn't concentrate because she kept thinking about Rentaro. She didn't understand why she was thinking about him or why she had put her mouth on his finger, aware of the risk of infection. Aijo thought that distraction was a waste of time and started writing the number pi on her board. However, she couldn't get Rentaro out of her head and began writing the number pi multiple times, desperate for wasting so much of her life. Because of this, the next day, she confessed her feelings to Rentaro, saying that she had concluded she was in love with him. Rentaro replied that he felt the same way and would love to be her boyfriend, but the girl declined. Aijo explained that she only did it to put an end to that love and was expecting him to refuse. Since he didn't, she refused herself. Rentaro asked why it had to be like that since they liked each other, and Aijo responded that obviously, a romance between teenagers leads nowhere, being a complete waste of time, and she would never go out with him. Aijo started to leave, but Rentaro explained that unlike her, he had been rejected several times and knew well that a feeling doesn't end just by breaking one of the involved hearts. He made it clear that he would continue to be in love with her the same way, making the girls start thinking about the number pi to regain focus. He then asked Aijo to go out with him just once, explaining that if he couldn't win her over on that single date, he would give up on his feelings. So a few days later, Rentaro went on his first date, taking Aijo to an amusement park. When he met her, he was enchanted to see the girl in casual clothes. They then proceeded with the date, and Rentaro's mission was to show Aijo that having a fun time with someone special wasn't a waste of time as she thought. First, Rentaro took her to the carousel, but Aijo couldn't understand the purpose of that activity. In the ride, she noticed that Rentaro had an instant camera and commented that it was a defective device since, if the photos were lost, all records of the event would be lost as well. Still, Rentaro took a photo of her to capture the moment. Next, they went to the haunted house at the park, but Aijo also saw no point in it, as it was evident that ghosts did not exist. In the haunted house, several zombies appeared, scaring Rentaro, but Aijo remained unfazed, as it was clear that all those zombies were just humans in disguise. In the end, she even commented that the ride should be called Haunted Humans. Afterward, they went to another ride, but like the others, Aijo still saw no sense in that outing. She questioned why people would wait in a long line to spin teacups, even thinking it might be some kind of brainwashing contraction. They continued the date in a giant maze, but again, Ai didn't understand the idea of the ride, concluding that the most efficient solution was to have a panoramic view of the place. Nevertheless, they followed the maze correctly, finding various dead ends, making her once again question the ride, asking why they didn't just build the correct path. Finally, they went on the Ferris wheel, something essential for a date. There, Rentaro noticed that Aya's hand was trembling. He asked if she was afraid of heights, and the girl replied that it was natural to fear a height that posed a risk to life. Rentaro then sat beside her, and Aya held onto his shirt. To calm her down, he placed his hand over hers. Both turned red at the situation, but ended up holding hands. At the end of the date, Rentaro looked at the photos and realized that Aya was bored in most of the rides except for one of them. The girl found it strange how he noticed that, as people always commented on her seeming emotionless. Rentaro explained that it wasn't difficult to understand if she paid attention and said he was glad she had enjoyed the ride. That Aya agreed that she liked the date more than she had expected, but for her, it was nothing more than just fun. Aya apologized to Rentaro but explained that she still saw such outings as worthless. He responded that there was no need to apologize as everyone has a different experience, and he was happy that she was sincere. Rentaro said it was a pity, but since it was such a meaningless day, there was no reason to keep the photos as a memento. He took out his lighter and slowly began to approach it to the photos. Aya remembered the date and realized that if she lost the photos, she would lose all the records of the event. As soon as they started to burn, Aya quickly took the photos from Rentaro's hand. He explained that there was no way to lose what you don't have. But at that moment, Aya seemed afraid of losing something, proving that she had gained something she didn't have before the ride. Rentaro showed her that there is value in moments of fun, and enjoying those good moments is what gives meaning to our lives. Then I started crying and Rentaro lent her a tissue. After a while, she calmed down and said she would disinfect the tissue before returning it. At that moment, Rentaro asked if she was going to lick it, but she quickly replied that she would wash it. Realizing that Rentaro was right about outings, she accepted the feelings she had for him and asked him to be her boyfriend, explaining that she wanted to gain what she was missing through romance, acquiring good moments with him. Rentaro accepted the proposal and the girl kissed him immediately, believing in fulfilling her desires without worrying about the means as the most efficient way. And so they ended their date holding hands, officially dating. However, Rentaro still had to explain the whole situation to his other girlfriends, so the next day he told them about the date and asked for permission to date Aya. The three accepted everything quite easily, as they weren't even surprised by the situation anymore. Rentaro was moved that they understood and promised to take care of all of them the same way. And so, Rentaro ended up with 4 girlfriends. However, Aya was the only one who had been on a date with him. Because of this, Hikari asked to go out with Rentaro. Karain and Shizuka also said they wanted to have a date, and Aya mentioned wanting the same since their outing was before they officially started dating. Rentaro agreed to the idea and asked where they would like to go. Hikari, who never missed an opportunity, already had something in mind and suggested the 5 go to a club to have their date on a pool day. And so, with the next outing scheduled for everyone to go together, Karain heads to a bikini store to pick out a more suitable swimsuit for the occasion, as she had only been to the pool with friends until then. However, Karain struggles to choose a piece that suits her, as she thought she wouldn't look good in cute bikinis. After searching for a while, Karain finds a white one that catches her eye but still doesn't feel comfortable wearing it, despite thinking that maybe, if she wore such a beautiful piece, she could get a compliment from Rentaro. On the day of the outing at the club, Rentaro waits for the girls to put on their swimsuits, and after a while, Shizuka, Hikari, and Aya arrive. Seeing them in bikinis, Rentaro thinks he can relax, but Shizuka feels embarrassed for wearing a one-piece swimsuit. She explains that she thought all students wore that type of swimwear but realized she was the only one. Rentaro reassures Shizuka, expressing pride in her modesty for wearing the school swimsuit, considering her a national treasure for this gesture. He then notices Karain is missing. At that moment, she appears still dressed. Rentaro freaks out, thinking Karain is there without finishing dressing, but she explains she is wearing a bikini, with clothes on top because she feels cold. Karain says she'll rest while the others have fun, but Rentaro and Hikari suggest it might be better for them to leave and come back on a day when everyone is well to enjoy the outing. However, she insists she'll be fine resting. Aya then helps Karain by showing her a spot in the club that seems to have more effective sunlight to warm up. Karain thanks her for the help and tells Aya she doesn't need to worry, but the girl clarifies that they're not close enough for her to be concerned, irritating Karain. Shizuka offers to rest with her for company, but Karain thanks her and says she'll be fine alone. Rentaro then goes to enjoy the pool with his other 3 girlfriends. However, the water current is too strong and Shizuka loses control of her float. This leads Aya to think that it's a perfect spot for survival training to prepare for unforeseen scenarios, so she decides to swim against the current. Meanwhile, as always, Hakari takes action to get closer to her boyfriend. She uses the current as an excuse to cling to Rentaro, making him uncomfortable. Aya decides to do the same and show her feminine side more efficiently and directly. This situation affects Rentaro so much that he faints in the pool. Aya notices his weak pulse and lack of breath. The two girls then pull Rentaro out of the water and decide to save him with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Hakari tries to perform the rescue but loses focus in the process. Aya pushes her aside and decides to save her beloved on her own. She thinks she can't let Rentaro go because she still wants to learn many things from him, but during the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, Aya also gets distracted. Hakari realizes the situation isn't going well and decides to take the rescue seriously, but once again loses focus while kissing Rentaro. Meanwhile, Shizuka is carried away by the pool current without knowing what's happening with Rentaro and the other girls. She tries to fight against the current, but Shizuka goes farther and becomes completely lost. She starts trying to ask for help from people around her, but no one can hear her cry for help over the cell phone audio. To make matters worse, her float deflates as it passes the pool's edge. Shizuka gets out of the water just in time for her float to completely deflate. However, she realizes she's on the other side of the pool, like an island in the middle of the water. She's trapped there alone. Back to Rentaro, he remains unconscious, and Hakari and Ai decide it's more efficient to call someone else for the rescue. But, as it involves mouth-to-mouth, they decide to look for a male lifeguard. The two run in search of help, but unfortunately run into three shady guys. One of them is interested in Hakari, and considers feeling the softness of her arm as a less criminal action than touching other parts of a girl without permission. Seconds before he grabs Hakari, Ai holds his hand to protect her. The guy thinks Ai did it because she was interested in him, but she defends herself by hitting his eyes, an efficient self-defense move. The guy's friends claim that Ai has to answer for her violence because being a woman doesn't mean she can do anything, completely ignoring the fact that Ai did it to protect Hakari. While the two girls are receiving threats from the two guys, Shizuka is stranded on the small island. Karain is mysteriously feeling cold in the club, and Rentaro appears increasingly lifeless. The guys tell Aya and Hakari to go with them, but Aya responds that she can go without questioning if they leave Hakari alone and instructs her to find a male lifeguard to save Rentaro as soon as possible. Hakari questions why Aya is agreeing to go with them since seconds ago she protected her from one of the guys. Aya explains that if something happened to Hakari, Rentaro would be sad, and that's something she wouldn't want to happen. Hakari argues that it doesn't make sense because Rentaro would also be sad if something happened to her. However, for Ai, as she recently started dating Rentaro, unlike Hakari, who has been with him longer, it makes sense that he would be sadder if something happened to Hakari. The guys complain that the two are wasting time and ask if they're coming or not. Ai starts to say she will, but Hakari interrupts, saying neither of them will go with them. Ai doesn't understand why Hakari is doing this, and Hakari explains that their relationship with Rentaro started recently, so she doesn't yet understand how much he cares about all of them. The guy decides to force the two to go with them. But at the right moment, their boyfriends appear, standing in front of them, protecting the girls. Everyone is surprised that he arrived at that moment, and to get rid of Rentaro, one of the guys tells him to take the girl who is his girlfriend and leave. Rentaro then explains that both girls are his girlfriends. The guys think he's saying that to protect the girls and challenge Rentaro to kiss them to prove what he's saying. The plan was to catch Rentaro in a lie since he couldn't kiss another girl in front of his girlfriend. Rentaro questions it because he shouldn't do something to prove anything, but Hakari and Ai don't care much and kiss him. With that, the guys believe that Rentaro was telling the truth and think about how young people today have bizarre relationships. The three then leave him and the girls alone, and Hakari asks Rentaro when he woke up and how he found them. At that moment, Karain arrives running, commenting on how fast Rentaro is. A few minutes before, she was in the chair, observing how the other girls were enjoying the pool without being ashamed of their bodies when she saw Hakari and Ai on the other side, with the guy yelling because she hit his eyes. Confused about where Rentaro was, Karain goes to the pool with the current and finds the guy, now completely gray, lying on the ground. She gets worried about him and mentions that Hakari and Ai were in trouble. Immediately, Rentaro regains consciousness, startling Karain. He asks where the two girls are and runs in the direction she points. After explaining how she found them, Ai thinks about how Karain efficiently awakened him, and Rentaro thanks her for protecting Hakari, but asks Ai not to risk herself so much, showing how he cares about her. This makes the girl remember what Hakari had said about not understanding yet how Rentaro cares about all of them. Later, Karain asks where Shizuka is, and Hakari says she hasn't seen her since they left the pool. Rentaro remembers she had a float and couldn't swim, panicking at the thought of what could have happened if the float had popped. He runs after Shizuka while she is still stranded on the small island, asking for help on her cell phone. However, no one can hear her due to the noises in the area. To make matters worse, her cell phone dies, leaving her unable to ask for help. Shizuka starts to cry, but then Rentaro appears, calling for her from the other side of the pool. However, as the place is crowded and he thinks she is still in the water, Rentaro doesn't notice Shizuka on the other side. Without her cell phone, Shizuka realizes her only choice is to use her own voice, and with great difficulty, she manages to call for him, albeit very softly. Rentaro, who apparently has excellent hearing, finally sees Shizuka on the other side of the pool. He jumps into the water and carries her to safety. This rescue prompts the girl to kiss him, and they both blush with embarrassment. Afterward, everyone finally gathers, but Rentaro says he wants to rest for a bit and asks the three of them to continue enjoying the water. He stays with Karain and takes advantage of being alone to say that he knew she wasn't cold, but rather embarrassed about showing her bikini, probably comparing her body to Ai and Hakari. Karain tries to deny it, but Rentaro points out that someone who's cold doesn't order a melon soda with ice cream. He explains that while Hakari and Ai have more attractive bodies, the two are exceptions for their age, as high school girls typically have bodies like Shizuka and Karain. Karain says she doesn't fit Shizuka's style either, as Shizuka is small and cute, while she is tall and not cute or feminine. Immediately, Rentaro asks Karain to stand up. She does, and he removes her clothes, revealing the white bikini she had seen in the store. Karain is incredibly embarrassed, but Rentaro comments that she looks great in that outfit and hugs her. The two get so close with the hug that they feel each other's heartbeats, and he explains that he can only get close to Karain because of the way she is. Rentaro says it's not about someone being better or worse. Everyone has their qualities, and he finds it impossible for Karain to be more attractive than she is. This makes her feel more at ease and confident to wear her bikini, and they kiss, realizing how much they love each other. Next, they go to the other girls who are having fun in the pool, and immediately Hakari compliments Karain's bikini, making her a little embarrassed. Later, with everyone gathered and ready to have fun, it's finally time for them to enjoy the outing. Thus, Rentaro takes advantage of the club's activities to have a cute moment with each of his girlfriends and other moments for them to enjoy all together. Days later at school, Rentaro is taken by his girlfriends who were eager to eat pancakes. On the way, he passes by the chemistry laboratory and sees a girl who gives him the shock that occurs when meeting a soulmate. The next day, Rentaro returns to the laboratory hoping to find the girl, but ends up finding another girl. She welcomes Rentaro and introduces herself as Yakuzan Kusuri, the president of the school's chemistry club. Then she offers him tea. Rentaro tries to explain that he only came to the laboratory to look for someone, but Kusuri insists that he should drink the tea. Rentaro accepts the tea and observes the girl's inventions while waiting for his soulmate to return to the laboratory. Kusuri enthusiastically presents a human magnet remedy, which is basically a drink that temporarily magnetizes the iron in the blood, just like a magnet. Kusuri makes Rentaro drink the remedy because the practical effects of the experiment are only known after testing. As soon as he drinks the liquid, his body becomes magnetized and starts attracting metals just like a magnet would. However, only later does the girl inform him that the drink will leave him constipated for 3 days. Later on, Kusuri shows that she has another drink and explains that it has the opposite polarity to the one she gave Rentaro. By drinking the liquid, she sticks to Rentaro like the other metals. He is enchanted by the girl's cuteness, but after a while stuck together, Kusuri realizes that the magnetism is stronger than she thought and they can't separate. Because of this, they would have to wait for the effects of the drinks to wear off, which would take 10 minutes. To make matters worse, Kusuri realizes only at that moment that she was holding back from using the bathroom and reached her limit. This causes Rentaro to panic. He tries to free himself from the girl while she explains that she held back during the experiments and therefore didn't notice earlier. Kusuri even says quite casually that it's not a problem because she was wearing a diaper and could relieve herself right there. After the effect of the drink wears off, they finally manage to unstick from each other, with Rentaro a little traumatized by a girl relieving herself while stuck to him. Kusuri shows herself to be a person fascinated by the effects of chemistry and introduces Rentaro to other experiments she created, such as a night vision potion and one that enlarges the body. Rentaro observes her all excited and thinks how Kusuri shines when talking about her inventions. However, only at this moment does he realize that he went there to find the soulmate he saw the day before and yet, for some reason, was falling in love with Kusuri. She notices that Rentaro was paralyzed by her cuteness and reveals that the tea she gave him when he arrived at the laboratory was spiked with a love potion. Then Kusuri declares her feelings, explaining that she fell in love at first sight with him. She asks Rentaro to be her boyfriend and thinks that the boy couldn't refuse the request because of the potion, but to her surprise, Rentaro tries to vomit. She finds his reaction somewhat rude, and Rentaro explains that he's just trying to vomit out the love potion. Kusuri becomes sad and thinks that Rentaro hates the idea of dating her so much that he's trying to resist the effects of the potion as much as possible, concluding that it wasn't strong enough. However, Rentaro clarifies that he just wants to get rid of the effects to accept her declaration, knowing that he is being himself. Suddenly, Rentaro starts having a convulsion because his body is rejecting the potion. Kusuri is scared and quickly grabs the antidote that neutralizes the effects of the potion to give to him. However, the convulsion is so strong that Rentaro can't stop to take the drink. The girl then thinks of a quick way to force him to drink. She puts the antidote in her mouth and passes it to Rentaro through a kiss. After the effect of the potion passes, Rentaro stops convulsing and Kusuri is sad, thinking that she won't be able to be with her beloved as her plan to win him over with the drink failed. However, Rentaro explains that even without the love potion, he still finds her beautiful. The girl turns all red and thinks that as the drink has already lost its effect, it means that he genuinely likes her. Kusuri then begs for them to date and says that she loves him too much as she loves her inventions. Suddenly, the girl starts changing, becoming larger and older than before. Rentaro is shocked by the transformation and recognizes that she is the girl he saw in the laboratory the day before. Kusuri says that she must have taken a bit of the neutralizer when she passed it to him through mouth to mouth, and that this is her true form. Kusuri explains that she failed in the immortality potion, and that's why she ended up with a different appearance, which was younger and smaller than her true form. Because of this, Kusuri could only stay in her real form for just a few dozen minutes as she got stuck in her younger form, which was not a problem for her, because her shorter hair and better vision made experiments easier. Rentaro is in shock with the discovery and understands that this explains what he was feeling for Kusuri. After all, she is the soulmate he was looking for. Then, Rentaro pleads to date the girl, starting another relationship. Later, he tells the story of the two to his other girlfriends and asks for permission for all of them to accept the new girl. Ai says that dating several companions at once is more efficient, but Rentaro explains that he is not dating them for that reason. Kusuri introduces herself and talks about her passion for chemistry, and Rentaro says that, in fact, she is in that form because of one of his experiments, but the girl is already in the 3rd year. Next, Kusuri says that she has some experiments for the girls. She starts by showing what she brought for Karain: a potion to increase bust curves, another to stop her craziness, and another to become more feminine. This stresses Karain out, and she questions how Kusuri concluded that she needed these things. Immediately, Karain starts blaming Rentaro, accusing him of speaking ill of her. But Kusuri says that he only said that she is slender and beautiful. Immediately, the girl regrets and apologizes to her boyfriend for blaming him. Afterward, Kusuri offers a potion to Hakari, making a person sexier. Immediately, the girl gets excited about the idea and drinks the potion without hesitation. However, this makes her clothes melt, and Kusuri explains that there is nothing sexier than a person without clothes. Rentaro covers his eyes and offers his sweatshirt from physical education to the girl. Hakari puts on the sweatshirt and gets all excited about wearing clothes used by Rentaro, but wonders if he won't melt too. However, Hakari explains that the potion only works once. Next, she offers a potion to Shizuka, making the person gain rabbit ears, making the girl incredibly cute. Rentaro touches her ears, saying that it looks like a movie fantasy, but immediately, Shizuka turns red from feeling his touch. Rentaro deduces that she must have had the same sensation as a little animal when receiving affection and takes the opportunity to caress his girlfriend's ears. Finally, Kusuri gives a potion to Ai, allowing the girl to manipulate her hair as she likes efficient things, and this way she could have more arms to move at will. Ai doesn't waste a second. She drinks the potion and tests her new ability, cleaning Rentaro's face, who is enchanted by the smell of her hair. Then the girl grabs him to give a kiss to her beloved. Ida comments that she liked the invention, and Kusuri shows that she has several potions, each with a different effect and lasting 10 minutes, although they have a side effect that increases the chance of going bald. Rentaro thinks it's too high a price to pay, but Ai disagrees and asks if he would love her even if she went bald. Rentaro says he would love the girl whether she became bald, fat, or even possessed by aliens, although she says that in the last case, it wouldn't be her anymore. However, this makes Ai give up taking more potions. Later, the girls go to snack, and Karain recognizes that the experiments have their uses and asks what would have happened if she had taken the potion that increases bust curves. Kusuri then shows an illustration of the effect. She says that she does various things with her potions, although she is more focused on the one she intends to use to join the research team, as her dream is to enter to do even more incredible experiments. Then the girl feels the urge to go to the bathroom and decides to use the diaper, which scares everyone around her, but Rentaro tells her to go to the bathroom for a change. Kuzuri then warns everyone to be careful because the tea she brought for Rentaro is different from the tea for the other girls. She tries to explain that it has to do with him being a man and the others being women, but she was already so desperate that she leaves without being able to explain the reason properly. They then analyze the bottles and think that the larger one must be for the girls, as it is an amount for 5 since Rentaro would drink his alone. Later, Kuzuri returns and everyone starts snacking, but Kuzuri notices that they distributed the tea wrong. She starts freaking out and asks the girls to spit out the drink quickly, but everyone thinks it's an exaggeration, just because the taste of the tea is wrong. Kuzuri then reveals that she had put a potion in Rentaro's drink to make him have an uncontrollable desire to kiss the person he likes. Her goal was to get a real kiss from her boyfriend, unlike when they did mouth-to-mouth to save him from convulsions. Rentaro says he doesn't need a potion to want to kiss his girlfriend, making Kuzuri very happy. She starts getting closer to him to give him a kiss, but Karain becomes possessive and throws the girl away. Rentaro realizes that his other girlfriends weren't acting weirdly and seem more like zombies. They all start chasing Rentaro in a scary way, and Kuzuri realizes that she caused confusion again with her experiments. Suddenly, Hikari tries to attack Rentaro, and he narrowly escapes. Kuzuri says that's the side effect of the potion, and Rentaro asks if she wanted him to be that way, but Kuzuri explains that it only happened because that is not a drink for girls, as the libido of men and women works differently. She says that the 4 gave in to the desire to kiss, and her brains no longer impose limits, providing supernatural strength. All they can think about is kissing the person they love, becoming true kiss zombies. She explains that if any of them manages to reach Rentaro, he won't be able to escape from their powerful arms, doomed to kiss forever. Although that is bad for Rentaro, the situation seems like paradise. However, Kuzuri ruins his dream by explaining that if the two don't manage to neutralize the potion before it circulates through the girls' entire bodies, they will stay that way forever. Despite varying a bit from person to person, on average, it would have about an hour to resolve the situation. But it won't be an easy task after all. There are 4 kiss zombie girls after the same guy. With Kuzuri's help, Rentaro manages to escape from his girlfriends and locks them on the terrace. However, the two still needed to make 4 doses of the neutralizer, and for that, Kuzuri needed to reach the school's chemistry lab in time to save the girls. They rush to the lab, but the zombies catch up with them. Kuzuri searches for a potion that can stop the 4, but can only find an experiment that melts the skin and hurts a lot, something Rentaro dismisses immediately since he doesn't want to harm his girlfriends. They decide to take a detour, but the zombies continue to pursue them, and oddly enough, they help Shizuka move faster so that all of them can go after Rentaro together, as she is smaller and slower than the others. Rentaro realizes that the girls are running very fast and deduces it to be one of the superhuman abilities acquired from the potion. Suddenly, the vice principal appears and prepares to attack Rentaro since he was running the school corridor. In panic, Kuzuri throws the skin-melting potion on the vice principal's face. The substance starts melting the makeup on her face, making her look even more bizarre. However, it prevents her skin from melting. Even though the potion didn't harm the vice principal, she panics about being without makeup, allowing Rentaro to escape the 4 zombies. Ai, despite being under the potion's effect and acting like a zombie, continues to display intelligence and devises a plan for the girls to split up and surround Rentaro at the chemistry lab door. Rentaro understands the plan, and knowing he is the target, decides to separate from Kuzuri so she can reach the lab without any problems. As planned, Shizuka follows him, clearing the path for Kuzuri. Moreover, she is not as fast as the other girls, making it easier for Rentaro to escape. He thinks about distancing himself as much as possible before the other 3 can surround him, but Shizuka falls and hits her face on the ground. Seeing his girlfriend injured, Rentaro runs back, completely forgetting that he should be running away from her. Quickly, he picks Shizuka up and descends the stairs to the infirmary to take care of the girl's forehead, which is now red. However, upon arrival, he sees that the infirmary staff is on leave for some research. Nevertheless, Rentaro enters and takes care of his girlfriend's forehead, considering the situation an emergency. But as soon as he finishes taking care of Shizuka's forehead, she speaks the word kiss through her phone, being the only word the kissing zombies say. Only then does Rentaro remember that she is still under the potion's effect. Shizuka seizes the moment to grab Rentaro and kiss her beloved. She gives him a long kiss, and whenever it ends, she gives another, just as Kuzuri had warned, as the potion's effect makes her want to kiss the person she loves eternally. Rentaro tries to resist but gets involved in the kiss as he also loves Shizuka. However, as soon as he remembers that she is not in her normal state, he gains strength because he wants his girlfriend back. Quickly, Rentaro hangs Shizuka on a hanger and apologizes for leaving her there, but he knew it was necessary to bring his girlfriend back to normal. And so Shizuka hangs, saying kiss through the phone, unable to get out of that situation. But there were still 3 more zombies to escape, and as Rentaro leaves the pharmacy, he encounters Hakari and Karain, who are always together. Rentaro tries to escape, but the two communicate, even though they can only say the word kiss and come up with a plan. Karain throws Hakari in Rentaro's direction, reaching him and taking him to the ground. Thus, the two manage to trap Rentaro and start kissing him, taking turns between them. Once again, Rentaro gets involved in the situation, but he thinks that even if he could resist, unlike Shizuka, the two are too strong to push away, leaving him with no way to escape. Suddenly, the girls start fighting over Rentaro as they always did. He realizes that even as zombies, they remain the same, and with that, he finds a way out. Rentaro takes advantage of their fight to bring the two closer and make the girls kiss each other. The plan works and they start kissing because the potion makes the girls uncontrollably want to kiss those they love, and despite always fighting, Hakari and Karain are good friends and care a lot about each other. However, maybe Rentaro ended up confusing their friendship with something else. He analyzes how the potion works on the girls while they continue to kiss non-stop, but he remembers that it's not the time for that because he has to find Kusari in the chemistry lab. Rentaro hurries and finally manages to reach the lab, but as soon as he enters, he faces Ai. He quickly closes the door and hides inside a cabinet. When Ai leaves the room, she can't find anyone and starts looking for Rentaro everywhere, staying close to the lab. But even though he was trapped, Rentaro was happy to have hidden successfully, knowing it was only a matter of time until Ai found him in his hiding place. However, Rentaro thinks that not everything is lost because, since he's separated from Kusari, she could take advantage of this chance to enter the lab. Unfortunately, for his bad luck, the girl was right there with him. Rentaro is startled by his girlfriend and asks her what she is doing inside the cabinet. Kusari explains that she tried to enter the chemistry lab, but Ai followed her, so she had to hide there. And as Ai was looking for Kusari everywhere, the girl couldn't come out to enter the lab. Rentaro finds Ai's behavior strange because the kissing zombies should be going after the person they want to kiss. Kusari deduces that Ai realized they were on the same team, and Rentaro thinks it makes sense, as she had already shown intelligence when she ordered the girls to split up to surround him. However, at that rate, Ai would eventually find them. Kusari suggests that Rentaro run to attract Ai's attention, leaving the way clear for her to go to the lab. However, Rentaro explains that he did think about it, but running after hiding seemed too suspicious, making it very obvious that he was fleeing to be caught. Thus, Ai could deduce that he was serving as bait and would end up finding Kusari in the cabinet. Rentaro starts to panic, not knowing what to do to help his girlfriends because time is running out. If they don't act quickly, it might be too late to reverse the effects of the potion. Kusari starts crying the pain she caused her boyfriend, saying that she always causes problems for everyone because of her love for chemistry, even losing the members of her club because of it. She says that causing problems for others was already bad, but doing it to Rentaro, someone she loves so much, makes her want to stop creating experiments forever. In her moment of sadness, Kusari grabs her lab coat and remembers that she always carries a reversal dose in case of an emergency, being the perfect way out for them. Rentaro is happy and thinks that everything is saved because even though they needed 4 doses, at the moment they only needed 1 to give to Ai. By saving her, the two could enter the lab to create the other doses. However, Kusari starts drinking the potion, causing Rentaro to panic. As a result, the flask falls to the ground. Only after the confusion does Kusari realize that she didn't think she could have given that dose to Ai, having thought only of taking the potion herself to assume her true form, which Ai had not yet seen. The plan was for Kusari to use that appearance that Ai had never seen before to enter the lab without worrying about any zombies. However, because she only took a sip from the flask, the effect would pass very quickly, so Kusari had to hurry to enter the lab before returning to her small size. She then thinks that a good way out would be to tie up Ai to immobilize her. And so Kusari comes out of the cabinet, and as they thought, Ai reacts differently because that appearance is strange to her. Kusari tries to catch the girl by surprise to tie her up, but Ai starts to suspect. Since they had little time to reverse the situation, Kusari begins to think that just going to the lab would be easier. But her habit of speaking about herself in the third person makes Kusari say her name out loud, revealing her identity to Ai, who quickly ties her up in seconds. Rentaro thinks it's the end because with the scientist tied up, there would be no one to produce the 4 antidotes. Suddenly, he comes up with a plan and leaves his hiding place, serving as bait to attract Ai. As planned, the girl follows him, and Rentaro makes an effort to go as far as possible to save his girlfriends, whom he loves so much. He runs until he reaches the school stairs, but Ai follows him. As the door was locked, she uses her superhuman strength acquired from the potion to break the handle and appears to Rentaro like a scene from a horror movie. He is scared and tries to escape but ends up cornered by the girl. Ai spends some time kissing him, but Kusuri appears and throws the antidote into her mouth, making her take it all and faint immediately afterward. Kusuri asks if Rentaro planned all of that, and he confirms, although it was more of a gamble than a plan, as there was no other option left. He lured the Ai away, trying to gain as much time as possible for the effect of the antidote that Kusuri had taken to wear off, so she could return to her small size and escape from the ropes that were tying her up. Fortunately, his gamble paid off and all 4 girls receive the antidote, waking up in the infirmary already in their normal state. They are confused about what they did and apologize to Rentaro. Suddenly, Hakari remembers that she had kissed Karain. Immediately, the girl pretends she can't remember anything that happened. Karain doesn't understand her friend because everyone remembers everything that happened, until she realizes the reason and also pretends not to remember anything. Rentaro is happy because that ended up making them even closer, but Kusuri still feels guilty for all the confusion she caused. She apologizes for turning the 4 into kissing zombies, but the girls are not upset. Rentaro says that even though it was her experiment that caused that confusion, it was another experiment that saved them, so everything balanced out. He promises Kusuri that regardless of the problems her potions cause, he will fix everything no matter what happens. Rentaro also says that Kusuri cannot give up her experiments that she loves so much because her passion for chemistry is one of the reasons he fell in love with her. The girls think Rentaro's attitude is that of a perfect boyfriend, and Kusuri cries emotionally because she loves chemistry as much as he does. And so she finally gets the kiss she desired so much, being the reason for causing all the kissing zombie confusion. Some time passes and we find Hakari at her home. Her mother says something to her, but it's not revealed what it is, though it's clear that it was a matter that deeply affected Hakari. The next day, Rentaro goes on another outing with his girlfriends, this time to a park called Love Zone of Flower Park. Ai finds it efficient for discovering various plant species, and Kusuri is excited to collect nectar for her experiments. Meanwhile, Shizuka enjoys the scenery and Karain observes a butterfly that landed on her finger. Rentaro thanks Hakari for suggesting the park as it is a perfect place for outings. Soon, an announcement is made that the park will soon start its monthly bouquet toss event, and those interested should head to the central square. Hakari explains to everyone that the event is a major attraction, where a bouquet is thrown, and whoever catches it gets a special photo session with their partner, the girl wearing a bride's dress adorned with flowers from the park. Rentaro is eager to participate, and everyone is excited about the idea of taking a photo dressed as a bride with him, especially Hakari, who suggested the outing because wearing that wedding dress has been her dream since childhood. They head to the central square and realize that many people from the park have also decided to participate in the event. Suddenly, a woman shouts to her team that they must catch the bouquet at all costs for her to have the photo session with her beloved. Ai explains to her group that it's the Guerrilla Confederation team, a Japanese motorcycle gang established in the early 21st century. Hakari suggests that the girls work together, as 5 working together would have a better chance of winning, and they could later draw lots among themselves to decide who gets the photo session. The gang cheers with team signs. Rentaro observes that they are numerous and all large, so he thinks it's best for Shizuka to stay in the cheering section to avoid getting hurt or lost in the crowd. Kusuri takes a potion to increase her size for the same reason. Later, Rentaro decides to make a flag for his team using a towel and a pen he happened to have. He writes the team name, Rentaro Family, making all the girls blush at being called his family. They prepare for the event, and the gang's cheering section is enchanted by Shizuka's cuteness. The event is about to start, and the park reminds everyone that any violence between participants is prohibited. The announcer mentions that the guest for the day who will throw the bouquet is a former shot put athlete. However, when she takes the stage, everyone is surprised to see that she is the vice director of the school, stating that her goal is to throw the bouquet strongly enough to leave the atmosphere so that no one can be happy. She throws the bouquet with all her might, and the participants start chasing after it. Rentaro notices that the bouquet will fly for a long time. Suddenly, the guerrilla gang starts knocking people down. Rentaro is puzzled because violence is against the rules, but he realizes it's the gang leader fighting her own team. She spins one of the men and throws him, but he flies right in Hakari's direction. Fortunately, Karain steps in and prevents a disaster. She decides to join the game and use the gang's crazy rules to their advantage. Karain holds the woman, who is scared by the girl's gorilla-like strength, while the others continue chasing the bouquet. When it's about to start falling, the gang uses cheer flags to create a tornado, throwing the bouquet right in their direction. Rentaro thinks they're going to lose when he sees Shizuka fly in the sky. Unfortunately, she was on the gang's cheering side, right in the middle of the hurricane where the wind is strongest. With her body as light as a feather and the towel creating pressure like a parachute, she ends up in the clouds. Shizuka seizes the opportunity to grab the bouquet, but in doing so, she lets go of the towel and starts falling rapidly. AI calculates the exact point of the fall, and the girls run there to save Shizuka. Rentaro is worried because catching someone falling from such a height could hurt them all. Fortunately, none of them get hurt thanks to their bodies, which luckily act as airbags, throwing Shizuka away with less impact than if she had fallen straight to the ground. He runs and manages to catch her in time, saving the girl and making the Rentaro family the winners. The gang's woman complains about losing, but Kurain thanks her for the fight, making the woman emotional. Next, they celebrate their victory, and Hakari mentions that it's time for them to decide who will have the photo session with Rentaro. Luckily, she brought a lottery kit. She starts shuffling various sticks, and whoever picks the stick with a red mark at the end wins. However, Hakari had set up the whole situation. She knew the event and that they would have to cooperate to win, and the winning stick had a small cut on the side. But it would be suspicious if she picked the stick with the red mark first. So her plan is for Ai to start the draw. Since Ai always seeks efficiency, she would grab the stick closest to her, and Hakari would stop shuffling with the right stick far from Ai, ensuring that she could pick it later and secure the victory. Hikari feels guilty for cheating, but to her surprise, Ai thinks it's more efficient if everyone picks the sticks at the same time, completely ruining her cheating plan. Hikari thinks she lost, but then she realizes that all the girls were sad with the result, and when she looks at her hand, she sees the stick with a red mark. In other words, she ended up winning honestly. Hikari is overjoyed that her childhood dream is finally coming true. However, Kusuri starts acting like a child as she really wanted to have a photo session with Rentaro. Rentaro tries to console his girlfriend, saying they can come back next month for the event. But this makes Hakari think that another girl should go in her place so that she and Rentaro can have good memories together. So Hakari gives up the victory, surprising everyone by giving up something as special as that moment. Kusuri is moved by her act and hugs Hakari, thanking her for everything. When she calms down, she says she doesn't need the photo session because she loves her just like Rentaro does. So it would be nice if the two people she loves took the photos. Hakari then has the idea for everyone to go to the photo session together. Kurain questions it. After all, they always take photos together, and this was her chance to have a photo only with Rentaro. However, Hakari insists on her idea. And so she fulfills her childhood dream, wearing a wedding dress alongside someone she loves along with all the other girls. Later, they wait for the photo to be printed, and Hakari thanks Rentaro for making her dream come true. She says that since they met, every day has been filled with happiness. Rentaro also expresses gratitude for everything, and Hakari asks if she can make a selfish request. He responds that she can always ask for anything, but the girl requests that they separate. That made no sense at all, so while Rentaro changes out of his groom attire, he decides that they need to have a better conversation to understand why she wants to break up. However, when Rentaro goes out to look for Hakari, a woman from the park explains that as soon as she handed the photo to her, the girl left because a car was already waiting for her. Kusuri thinks that Hakari must have had an emergency with her bladder, and Kurain responds that Hakari is not like her. Kusuri questions that she's not the only one who uses the bathroom, and the girls begin to argue about it while Rentaro tries to call her. The girl doesn't answer the call, and Rentaro thinks that the only option is to find her address in the envelope she sent in out of nowhere, containing various sensual photos. Rentaro manages to find the address and goes to Hakari's house. He is impressed with the place because his girlfriend lived in a mansion that looked more like a painting. Then he sees Hakari near the window of her room and starts calling for her. The girl sees Rentaro and quickly asks him to be quiet and duck to hide from the security guard. Rentaro manages to hide in time, and his cell phone starts ringing. He answers and realizes it's Hakari speaking from the landline of her house. She says that they don't have much time, and she asks him to be brief. Rentaro then says that he would never accept a breakup without knowing the reason. Hakari says that she no longer feels the same as before and asks him to accept and move on. However, that was clearly a lie, and Rentaro says he won't leave until she tells him what really happened. Hakari realizes that he won't give up and confesses that her mother found out about their relationship, including the fact that Rentaro has other girlfriends. She tried to explain how everyone was truly happy, but her mother didn't accept it. She took Hakari's phone, transferred her to another school, and planned to move for the next day without even telling her where they would be living. Rentaro thinks the whole story is crazy, but Hakari explains that her mother never cared about doing crazy things using the power of money. Even if a miracle happens and they meet again, her mother will continue to separate them as many times as necessary. She then says that she told the truth and asks Rentaro to accept it and leave because they had no other option. At that moment, her mother enters the room and closes the curtain. She takes the phone and tells Rentaro never to approach her daughter again, making it clear that she has the power to crush an insect like him whenever she wants. The phone hangs up and he starts shouting for the two of them to hear. However, the security guard appears and tries to force Rentaro out. The man realizes that he is Hikari's boyfriend and says that her mother made it clear not to let him in, asking the boy to give up since there are many things in the world that we can't change, especially for a kid like him. Meanwhile, Hikari's mother scolds her because she had already made it clear not to talk to Rentaro again and threatens to send the boy away, where she would never see him again. Hikari pleads with her mother not to do anything to him and promises never to disobey her again. Her mother is happy with her decision and acts as if she were doing all this for her well-being. The woman hugs her daughter and thinks that she will never give her precious flower to a fifth-rate insect, and anyone who approaches her must be determined. Rentaro, with no other option, leaves heartbroken, remembering everything he heard at Hikari's house, thinking that he was just a kid and didn't have the power or money to change that situation. Suddenly, he looks down and finds a four-leaf clover. This makes Rentaro remember how it all began, as well as everything he experienced with Hikari. And so he hatches a plan. At night, Rentaro explains everything that happened to the girls. All of them are worried and think that unfortunately, there was nothing that could be done. Rentaro then says that he decided to infiltrate the mansion and get Hikari so they could escape together. The girls try to say that it was too risky because her mother is incredibly rich and would surely find him easily, with zero chances of success. However, Rentaro says that although he doesn't know how long they can run away, he couldn't simply ignore Hikari's sad look, and that's why he had to bet that the two of them would be able to leave the city that same night. So Rentaro promises that one day he will return for everyone and asks if the girls could wait for him, hoping for their understanding. Karain is the first to question it, as they don't know how long the two of them will have to stay away and whether they can even come back, so she can't just wait. Rentaro thinks that Karain will end it, but actually, she says she'll go with him, willing to run away from home. All of them say the same, and Ai says that they can increase the chance of success by 0.01% if they work together. Rentaro tries to say it's not such a simple decision, but he realizes that the four of them were already determined because, just like him, they all love Hikari. And so they set off towards the mansion to rescue the girl. After jumping over the mansion wall, everyone is impressed with the place and takes advantage of the noise from the fountain to go unnoticed. However, Rentaro warns that the house security is strict, so they must be cautious. And so the Rentaro family members embark on the mission to rescue Hikari. However, since the girl is still without a phone, Rentaro thinks of using a rubber ball to throw at his girlfriend's window and grab her attention. The plan is for her to come down to them using a rope. But he misses the window, losing sight of the ball. The group starts searching for it, and Karain finds it with a house kitten playing with it. Everyone starts chasing the cat, and Ai suggests kicking it to incapacitate it. Still, Rentaro reminds them that this would lead to an animal cruelty report. At that moment, a security guard hears a noise and starts approaching. Quickly, everyone hides behind a garden tree along with the kitten. It escapes and appears in front of the guard, still carrying the ball. The guard thinks the cat made the noise and starts trying to play with it. With this distraction, the Rentaro family manages to mislead the guard but loses their ball. Since Hikari's room has a high wall and no other way to get her attention, their only option is to enter the house. Ai thinks that if they have a cat, the entrance door must have a pet door. She finds a pet door which is unlocked but too small for any of them to pass through. Karain asks Kusuri if she has a potion to shrink in size, but she explains that her reduced size was due to a failed immortality potion, and she doesn't have anything to make them smaller. However, Ai finds a way for them to enter. She picks up stones from the garden and after some time manages to open the door, leaving everyone impressed. She explains that she determined the lock's location and type based on the door shape and launched the stones at the correct angle and speed to force the lock open. She then reminds the group they need to be quick, as the longer the rescue operation takes, the higher the risk of failure. But before they enter, Rentaro notices Ie hiding her hand. When he takes hold of it, he realizes one of the girl's nails is broken and bleeding. Rentaro asks the girls to get antiseptic and bandages from his backpack and tends to his girlfriend's wound. She explains that she used her nail for maximum precision and speed to unlock the door. Karain says she didn't need to go that far, but Ai explains that she owes Hikari, recalling when the girl protected them from the delinquents in the club. However, she realizes that she isn't doing it out of obligation, but because she genuinely wants to help. And so the Rentaro family enters the house, only to encounter a dog that Kusuri mistakes for a bear due to its size. Everyone runs outside to avoid being attacked, but they notice Shizuka is left behind, frozen in fear. Rentaro starts shouting to call her, but Ai stops him in time, explaining that raising their voices will only provoke the dog and alert the security. Shizuka freezes with fear, thinking she shouldn't have joined the mission in the first place, as she believes she's only a hindrance. However, she recalls that she went there solely to assist Hakari and, like Rentaro, is willing to give her all to try and rescue her friend, regardless of whether the plan succeeds or not. Shizuka then lies down on the ground and accepts a heroic sacrifice. The dog approaches her, but instead of attacking, starts licking the girl's face. I mentioned she suspected this would happen since dogs have a natural instinct to protect weak animals like babies, and Shizuka's vulnerability triggered this protective instinct, suppressing its territorial instincts. However, they still need a way to enter the house because if they enter again, the dog would likely become aggressive once more. Ai thinks the most efficient way would be to harm the animal, but Rentaro reminds them that both the cat and the dog belong to Hakari's family. Kusuri then decides to use one of her potions, a medicine that induces instant sleep and could neutralize the dog. She hands the potion to Shizuka, forgetting to mention it's for the animal, leading Shizuka to believe it's for her. And so before they could stop her, Shizuka falls asleep, but luckily, the dog also falls asleep next to her. After giving the reversal potion to Shizuka, everyone manages to move forward, reaching a huge corridor leading to Hakari's room. The cat appears again, and suddenly an alarm starts blaring. Rentaro thinks they can't escape through the corridor because it's too large. However, when the security guards arrive, they find only the kitten, and one of them comments that the animal often triggers a house's infrared sensors, allowing the group to hide behind the doors and remain unseen. When the guards leave, Ai says that if they advance without infrared vision goggles, there's a 99% chance of failure. Kusuri then takes out a card and retrieves one of her potions, explaining that it's an eye drop that grants infrared vision. Rentaro agrees to use it immediately, but only after he applies it to his eyes does Kusuri remember to mention the side effect. The medication causes temporary total blindness, making the person see only infrared light. Kure notices the letter from which Kusuri took the eye drops, but the girl quickly takes it from her hand and tries to hide the envelope. However, Ai sees the address in time and explains that the letter was addressed to a foreign research team with a large pharmaceutical laboratory. They remember that Kusuri was dedicating herself to a potion to apply for her dream research team, realizing that it was the eye drop. In other words, she gave up her dream to help Hakari, and would miss the deadline to submit her experiment. However, Kusuri explains that even after causing problems with her potions and tantrums, Hakari continued to be her friend, becoming more important to her than any research team. Each of them loved Hakari and was willing to do anything to help. Next, the eye drops start to take effect, and Rentaro sees the infrared sensors of the house. Still, he realizes there are so many that not even Tom Cruise could pass through. However, even though we can't see anything beyond the sensors, Rentaro observes that the ceiling seemed much higher before he used the medicine and understands that, in reality, he got the impression that the height had decreased due to the infrared sensors not reaching the ceiling because of the corridor's chandeliers. In other words, for them to pass, they only needed to climb high enough. But the corridor was too long to be climbed, yet Ai observes that if two strong people work together, it would still be possible to climb the corridor. Everyone starts looking at Karain because, in addition to Rentaro, she is the only one strong enough for this task. And so the two are tied together with a rope to help them get in sync, and Rentaro becomes confident that they will succeed because he had faith in the synchrony with his girlfriend. With much effort, the two manage to climb high enough to be above the sensors. Then they begin to cross the corridor, passing near the chandelier. However, Karain starts getting nervous because Rentaro's cheek was brushing against her belly, although he didn't notice since he couldn't see anything besides the sensors. After a while of strenuous effort, the two finally manage to cross the entire corridor. Then Rentaro instructs the other girls to hide in the garden and prepare for the moment of escape, promising that they will return with Hakari. Next, the two find Hakari's room and, upon opening it, see the girl crying with a photo they took together in the park. Suddenly, an alarm starts to sound because her room's door was equipped with an alarm to prevent an escape attempt. Rentaro wonders who would do such a thing to their own daughter and asks the three to flee, but they are already surrounded by guards with nowhere to run. Meanwhile, the other three were waiting hidden in a bush and become worried upon hearing the alarm. Suddenly, a guard arrives, but they manage to divert attention by making cat noises. Inside the house, Rentaro and Karain talk to Hikari's mother while she stays alone in her room, feeling guilty for making her boyfriend waste his life trying to make her happy in vain, as her mother would never give up on separating them, and he would never give up on her. Meanwhile, her mother, Hahari, introduces herself to them and explains that she is letting them roam freely because they are friends of her daughter, but she makes it clear that they would be restrained if they try anything suspicious. At that moment, Rentaro had no choice but to ask for permission to date Hakari, promising to make her happy. But for Hahari, that was nothing more than an empty promise. To make Rentaro understand her reasons, she tells him that she was in her second year of high school when she gave birth to Hakari after losing the love of her life to an illness. She explains that she needed a reminder, something that proved he existed, and that's why she had the best medical care during pregnancy and risked childbirth despite her young age. Hahari, like her daughter, becomes blinded when in love and convinces herself that love is the only path to a happy life. But with the loss of her beloved, she was alone until she became a mother. Therefore, she dedicated her entire life to raising Hikari. Despite loving her daughter very much and seeing her as a ray of hope, Hahari could never fill the void left by her beloved, and not a day went by without her wondering if this was the happy life she dreamed of. She explains that for this reason, she was prohibiting their relationship because she doesn't want Hikari to experience the heartache of regret, and she needed to ensure that her daughter doesn't become disappointed when she realizes that the happiness she desires won't come from a boy who dates 5 girls at the same time. But she knew Hikari wouldn't realize this on her own, just like she didn't in her own past. Hahari concludes by explaining that it's not just an emotional decision. She based the choice to separate the two on her own life experiences. She asserts that Rentaro couldn't change her mind with mere words. Rentaro, moved by the story, starts to cry. Karain tries to convince him that it's not the time to be emotional. He needs to touch Hikari's mother's heart. Rentaro then declares that, like her, he wants Hikari to have no regrets and is determined to ensure that even if it costs him his life. After stopping his tears, Rentaro realizes his vision is returning. His tears washed away the eye drops. However, he certainly wasn't expecting that upon seeing Hikari's mother, they would experience love at first sight, the kind that happens when two soulmates meet. Hahari, who lost her love at a young age, feels the same sensation again after many years. Immediately, she begins to beg Rentaro to date her, blinded by love once more. Next week, we'll have more of this anime as soon as the new episode is released, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the like button below to support this video. See you guys.